Bonjour! Welcome to Rambo Loves History. I am your favorite French bulldog that takes you through mind-blowing history with style. Welcome back to Rambo Loves History. What if I told you that the smallest nation in Western Europe once commanded the largest empire the world had ever seen? That a country smaller than Indiana controlled territories spanning 4 continents and initiated the age that transformed human civilization forever? As a French bulldog, I appreciate punching above your weight class. This is the paradox of Portugal, a nation of 10 million souls tucked away on the western edge of Iberia, yet whose legacy touches every corner of our world. From the spices in your kitchen to the concept of global navigation, from Portuguese spoken by 300 million people to the brutal realities of the transatlantic slave trade, all trace their roots to this nation's audacious gamble on unknown seas. The story begins with ancient hunters stalking through Portuguese forests. Celtic peoples swept in, bringing iron tools and building fortified hilltop settlements called castros. Among these tribes, the Lusitani proved most significant, fierce warriors who gave their name to the land itself. To this day, the Portuguese-speaking world is known as Lusophone. When Roman legions arrived in the 2nd century BC, they encountered Viriathus, a shepherd-turned-military genius who united the Celtic clans and turned the mountains into a death trap for Roman forces. For 8 years, he waged guerrilla war that humiliated Rome's finest generals. The Romans, unable to defeat him in battle, bribed his companions to murder him in his sleep, a betrayal that would echo through Portuguese memory for centuries. With Viriathus dead, Rome absorbed Lusitania. Latin replaced Celtic tongues, Roman law superseded tribal custom, and Christianity took root so deeply that in 366 AD, a Lusitanian named Damasus ascended to the papacy. Yet empires must fall. In 711, Muslim armies crossed from Africa, crushing Visigothic power in a single devastating battle. Within years, Islamic rule extended to the Pyrenees, but in the mountains of Asturias, Christian resistance sparked. The Reconquista began. A Galician nobleman named Vímara Pérez pushed south in 868, capturing the city of Porto. This foothold would grow into the county of Portugal, named for its chief city, Portus Cale. Now here's where it gets interesting. The pivotal moment arrived in 1139. Count Afonso Henriquez, after defeating Muslim forces at the Battle of Urique, declared himself not Count but King of Portugal. Legend tells that Christ himself appeared to Afonso before the battle, promising victory and commanding him to found a new kingdom. By 1249, the last Muslim stronghold had fallen. Portugal's borders were essentially fixed, the oldest unchanged borders in Europe. But geography is destiny, and Portugal's destiny lay not in European entanglements but on the open ocean. Blocked from eastward expansion by Castile, Portugal faced only the Atlantic, that vast, terrifying void that ancient maps populated with monsters. What transformed this geographic limitation into world-changing opportunity was one man's vision, Prince Henry the Navigator. From his windswept compound at Sagres, he orchestrated a revolution. He gathered the finest minds in navigation, cartography, and shipbuilding. His shipwrights developed the caravel, a vessel that could sail closer to the wind than any before. His captains pushed ever further along Africa's western shore. The breakthrough came in 1434 when Gil Eanes rounded Cape Bojador, the dreaded point of no return beyond which sailors believed the sea boiled. When Eanes returned unscathed, a psychological barrier shattered. Portuguese expeditions pressed forward with increasing boldness. They discovered the gold-rich coast of Guinea, established trading posts, and tragically initiated the European trade in African slaves, a moral stain that would darken Portugal's legacy forever. But wait until you see what happens next. In 1488, Bartolomeu Dias rounded the southern tip of Africa, opening the sea route to Asia. A decade later, Vasco da Gama completed the journey, reaching India and returning with a cargo of spices worth 60 times the expedition's cost. That single voyage announced Portugal's arrival as a global power. Within decades, Portuguese fortresses dotted the coasts of Africa, Arabia, India, and Southeast Asia. Then came 1500 and Pedro Álvares Cabral's accidental discovery of Brazil. Whether truly accidental or secretly planned, Brazil would become Portugal's greatest prize. First valued for Brazil wood, Brazil's true wealth emerged with vast sugar plantations worked by enslaved Africans and later gold and diamond mines that produced wealth beyond imagination. By 1520, Portugal controlled an empire spanning 4 continents. Lisbon became Europe's richest city where African gold, Brazilian sugar, and Asian spices flowed through magnificent new buildings. The Tower of Belém perfectly embodies this golden age, a stone caravel sailing forever at the edge of Europe. But Portugal's very success contained seeds of decline. With barely 1 million inhabitants, Portugal lacked the population to settle its vast territories. The wealth flowing through Lisbon created dependence on colonial profits rather than domestic production. Classic mistake. They forgot to read the fine print about sustainable economies. And here's where everything falls apart. Disaster struck in 1578. Young King Sebastian, dreaming of crusader glory, led an army into Morocco and vanished in the Battle of Alcácer Quibir. He left no heir. After a succession crisis, Philip II of Spain claimed the Portuguese throne in 1580, and for 60 years Portugal essentially ceased to exist as an independent nation. Spain's enemies became Portugal's enemies. The Dutch attacked Portuguese possessions worldwide with devastating effectiveness. When Portugal regained independence in 1640, its empire was in tatters. The Dutch had seized Ceylon, Malacca, and much of Brazil's northeast. Yet Portugal endured, even prospered again when Brazilian gold discoveries in the 1690s produced wealth surpassing anything seen before. The Great Lisbon Earthquake of 1755, that terrifying All Saints' Day when earth, fire, and tsunami combined to destroy one of Europe's finest cities, marked both physical and philosophical catastrophe. In Portugal, the disaster brought forward the Marquis of Pombal, an enlightened despot who rebuilt Lisbon with Europe's first earthquake-resistant buildings. When Napoleon invaded in 1807, the Portuguese court fled to Brazil, making Rio de Janeiro the only European capital ever located outside Europe. This retreat saved the monarchy but doomed the empire. Brazilians, having tasted self-governance, demanded independence in 1822. Portugal's greatest colony was gone. The 19th century witnessed Portugal's painful transformation from imperial power to peripheral European nation. The monarchy fell to Republican revolution in 1910, but chaos followed, 45 governments in 16 years, until military coup brought Antonio Salazar to power in 1926. This dictator would rule for nearly 4 decades, clinging desperately to African colonies as proof of Portugal's continued greatness. The Carnation Revolution of 1974, named for the flowers soldiers placed in their rifle barrels, ended both dictatorship and empire. Within 2 years, all African colonies gained independence. Portugal, shorn of imperial pretensions, faced its European destiny. Joining the European Union in 1986 brought modernization and prosperity. Today's Portugal offers a fascinating paradox. This small nation remains one of Europe's poorest, yet ranks among the world's most peaceful. Portuguese is spoken by more people than German or French. From Brazil's samba to Goa's vindaloo, Portuguese cultural influences circle the globe. The empire is gone, but its echoes resonate everywhere. Perhaps this is Portugal's ultimate lesson, that a small nation with grand ambitions can change the world. But lasting greatness comes not from dominion over others, but from the courage to transform oneself. So I ask you, in our modern age of superpowers, what can we learn from Portugal's experience? How does a nation maintain its dignity when the world no longer bends to its will? And was Portugal's imperial adventure ultimately a triumph that connected the world, or a tragedy that exploited it? If this blew your mind, you need to see how Mongolia conquered more territory than anyone in history. Click that video now and subscribe so you never miss history with Rambo.